Are we live? Oh, I think there we go. We are coming in
Yay.
live. Happy 4th of July holiday, because that's where we are. It doesn't feel like that's tomorrow. Hey, everybody, I am Danielle Lea, hashtag It Didn't Crush Me, owner and founder of Momentum Integrative Health Solutions, my latest health venture after spending 20 years in the pharmaceutical, almost 20 years in the pharmaceutical industry, and then coaching in the health world. But I have a special guest here today. What we are here to do is to talk about all the magic and the myths of the peptides because I have really recently dove headfirst into not just this world, but also the side of natural health, focusing deeply on internally healing inflammation and just getting my body back, right? Like feeling like my body is mine again. And um, I've followed Kellie for a while, but we finally had our first conversation not too long ago, and it's just so interesting. I love this world of online connection because we really can be brought together with people with so many similarities to us. And I think the first time we talked, like it was just one of those conversations that bounced back and forth and back and forth. And so I'm going to go tag Kellie right now, and I'm going to let her do her own intro because I'm sure she'll do it better than me. Go right ahead.
Yes, awesome. Well, it is so cool because, when we first talked, and I think when you meet people that you have so much in common with, it's like we're like old neighbors or have known each other forever, just so many things in common. So, hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me and just excited about the conversation and questions. So, I spent 15 years in pharmaceuticals. Went from type 2 diabetes to gastroenterology to anxiety and depression to cardiovascular care to all sorts of different disease states. I spent a lot of time in actually like launching new products and myself went through a crisis kind of in my medical career or my medical journey in my life. Got diagnosed with a really rare brain tumor, and that really switched things for me. And that was about 10 years ago. And I decided like I was already living like kind of healthy, but then I was like, I've got to be my own advocate. And not that I love doctors, I have a lot of friends and big network of doctor friends, but it's our space is in like sick care, not health care. And I really wanted to start looking at preventing, like how can I can prevent things? I've got kids and I really wanted to be able to show up to be the best me. And so I started going down that route of like supplements, and that led me to a lot of other types of therapies. And it led me to peptides a few years ago. And I myself had a very difficult time finding people who were knowledgeable of peptides. Couldn't even get what I wanted for a very long time and had to take it in like a capsule type of form. And then that led me to where I am today, which has been educating and peptides and actually sharing my own journey with them. And so I specialize and really love working with midlife women who are kind of like really just maybe they're let themselves go or haven't had time to take care of themselves and really just help kind of give them motivation and point in the right direction. So I'm excited to be here and I'm so glad that we connected. I know we're going to have a lot of fun in the future.
1000%. And there's a couple things, right? Like I did not know about your brain injury, your TBI, and I've just, started learning about that in the last couple months and the importance of omegas in that and the importance of just all the groundbreaking work that's been done there. But then also, our pharma background and um anyway, so let's just really kind of dig in. Um I love how you just mentioned you work a lot with women who just feel like they kind of let themselves go. They prioritize everyone and everything above themselves. And like I feel like so many people can relate to that in so many ways because that's just part of what happens.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that as well, right? Like you just kind of really run out of time. And then you become shameful about like what you decide to do because you know, to be honest, everybody has an opinion about how you choose to live your life. And some people are really excited to tell you what their opinion is about your life when they have no responsibility for it, to it, or anything of such, right? So,
Mhm.
um, I I have a little secret to share. I'll just kind of put this out here, here. I haven't shared this before, but it was a couple, not too long ago, right? I actually started peptides. It was just kind of for a short time, right? Like I feel like I gotta put that caveat. It was just for a short time. And it wasn't necessarily because, I mean, I can say it wasn't because I wasn't looking to drop some pounds, but truly like I've kind of felt like garbage. I felt like sludgy, not just squishy. I hear women say squishy. I didn't feel squishy. I felt like sludgy. And I wanted to do something to get back to the point where I can move my body again because I know at this stage of the game, weights and weight training and building muscle is really important. But I was sitting downstairs looking at a cupboard full of, I don't know, a protocol of 10 to 12 different things that I was supposed to take every day
Yeah.
naturally for my health, right? And yet I kind of had access to this peptide. And I'm like, you know what? I couldn't get approved on insurance, so I'm just going to take it myself.
Mhm.
And because I was feeling pretty crappy. So I grabbed it, popped it in my stomach, injected it on my own. Again, this is not authorized by a doctor, PS. So please don't think that I am promoting anybody to do that or recommending that you do that, but it's
Yeah.
my story, right? And holy crap, I was like, I feel pretty good. Like I'm lighter, I'm more clear. Like my sleep was amazing. But I was like, I'm probably dosed a little too high here, right? Like I know I need some more food. Like what's my body need? And I really didn't know that much about it, right? It
Mhm.
was kind of like
Mhm.
walking on the edge. But I decided to stop it. And what surprised me was I didn't gain all that weight back, right? Like what happened was I started moving my body more. I started looking for those nutritional, I started making the changes that I had told myself I wasn't capable of doing before, but it got me kickstarted to do that.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I know like you're nodding your head because you hear this all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's like just, I'm nodding my head because I'm like, one of the things that people don't, I think, sometimes understand is the GIP, the GLP products, they get people doing the right habits. So, like, you knew the habits, people know what they should be doing. They know they should be lifting weights, they know they should be walking, moving their body, eating right. But they're not motivated. They're stuck in this rut, and it's like so hard to get out. And you go to the doctor and they say, exercise more and eat less. And you're like, I've tried that and it doesn't do. And then you get discouraged. But that's what these peptides actually help you, which is why you started new habits. You got into old habits that maybe you had let drop. And when you stopped taking the product, you still have those habits. And so it really does allow you to create and develop and new habits like that. And you do hear it all the time. People are like, I feel it's not even just fluffy. Like I'm always like, I'm the fluffy mom. Like that's what I was. I was the fluffy mom. I was in good shape. I did all the other things right, but I just was like, I need to get over this hump. I need to get there. I can't get there. I've been trying to get there for years. And then you get there and you're like, holy cow, like I'm still doing everything right. But like I had that assist. I had that like, that little crutch that like got me there. And I believe it helps me so much with habits because I did not realize what an emotional eater I was. I didn't realize what a stress eater I was. I didn't realize that like I just picked up and would get things as procrastination until I didn't do it anymore. And I'm like, why do I eat? Why do I have something emotional happen in my life or with my kids? And then I go to food for comfort. It was such a habit. And then I didn't need to do it. And then I could correct that behavior. And that is some things that we just don't talk about. So I can totally relate with what you're
Well,
saying.
and what I want to say about that too, right? So again, you've got a background in nutritional supplementation, so do I. You were heavily focused in weight loss in your past life. I was heavily focused on the gut microbiome. So we
Mhm.
come kind of diverse ways to look at things.
Yep.
And for me to get to the point where I truly didn't have food cravings, and I know this about my friends who are super like health guru people, um, it takes a significant period of time to turn your gut microbia around to get it to stop signaling
Mhm.
because you have an overgrowth of bad, like for lack of a better term, bad bacteria, right? And it wants all the sugar, right? But then you have a cortisol spike or you have, you're not sleeping well. There's all these things that then continue to trigger it, right? That are
Mhm.
going on in your
Right.
body, that are going on in your life. And not only does it take a really, really hard time to get to that point where you feel like food neutral, like emotionally neutral about food and eating and
Yep.
whatever, it's just so easy to fall out of it. But when you do, but the other part of that is you're not seeing the changes in your body
Yeah.
at the rate that you do when you start taking peptides. And
So true.
so I kind of felt like that shame, right? About like that, oh, this is like too shortcutty. And like, I've tried, what did I say, 10, 12 different things every single day, all these powders that are supposed to be good for you, but yet they're supposed to taste good. So we're adding these things in. Okay. How much can you do with a powder, right? Like there's certain powders that make sense that we need to put into our body, but at some
Hmm.
point, there's other things added in there. And so intuitively, I was
Hmm.
like, this is not making sense. It's not sustainable for me. But when I found the peptides, even not properly dosed, but I found that it was the changes happening, the habits were being sustained.
Yeah.
I became much more intrigued by what was really going on internally. And then you shared a podcast with me. And one
Mm.
of the reasons that I was even open to this whole peptide conversation is I have a very good friend. She owns a beautiful med spa, not near me. So I'm not going to her for peptides or anything like that. And I watch her recommend them and I trust her medically and and she looks amazing. Um, and then you shared this podcast with me, and they were talking about all the cardiovascular benefits,
Mhm.
all the internal health benefits that we don't get to hear because we're out there, media and Hollywood shaming people because they probably, like me, were misdosing themselves and going for extreme weight loss and not doing the nutritional supplementation that you need to do it to support your body. So maybe, Kellie, can you share maybe two or three of the most common health benefits, like true health benefits that people get when they get into this world of peptides and they start taking them?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the most common ones I think that people are bringing up the conversations around peptides are your GLP-1s, your GLP-1 GIPs. And I think that the biggest thing, and most people will go for them because of weight, right? Because obesity just in general is an epidemic, right? Last year in 2024 was the very first year in the United States that the obesity rates did not increase. And we haven't been around long enough to see them ever go backwards. And they went backwards. Not a lot, not a lot. We got a lot of we got a lot of work to do. But they went backwards, just a smidge. And they always say like, why is that? And it is they deemed it straight because of the weight loss injections. Okay. So it opens up that door of the conversations around it. And so you have to think, what are peptides? Any sort of peptides, where you're talking about a longevity peptide, you're talking about weight loss, like whatever. These are natural occurring things in our body, right? These things are already there. Our body knows what to do with it. So when you're doing an injection, when you're taking a capsule or a nasal spray or sublingual drops, however you're delivering these peptides, your body knows exactly what to do with it because it makes it naturally. And so you have to think that it's like, I mean, it's not like you're putting some sort of foreign object that your body doesn't know what to do. So that's the first and foremost is like, you know how to do it. But the biggest things I think that I see that are the most common is number one is weight. Okay. Everybody knows that the products will help you lose weight. I mean, it will help you lose way more than 10% if you have more than 10% to lose. Most weight loss solutions have always been in the 5 to 6, maybe 7 or 8%. Diet and exercise, all of that, it's usually somewhere between that. If you're super strict, you may can get to 10, but people can't usually lose more than that, right? So that's like, I mean, if you're a 150-pound person, that's 15 pounds. If you're a 200-pound person, that's 20 pounds. 200-pound person generally needs to lose more than 20 pounds, right? Depending on how tall they are and their build. So that insulin resistance. I mean, insulin resistance links to inflammation. I mean, they call type 2 diabetes, which you develop insulin resistance, then you go to type 2 diabetes. They call that, and all of these things basically like dementia and Alzheimer's are basically like type 3 diabetes. They're talking about this. So, insulin resistance, diabetes, it leads to cardiovascular events. What are cardiovascular events? We're talking about strokes. We're talking about heart attacks. We're talking about, clogged arteries, which I am not like obviously a doctor, but I have worked in the cardiology field and I have cardiovascular disease in my family. So I'm very in tune with my blood pressure, my cholesterol, what my arteries look like. There's all these preventative type of measures, but that costs money and your insurance doesn't pay for that. And doctors, a lot of times, are not going to make money to prevent cardiac issues. So, and our structure is just not built like that. So you've got cardiac, then you've got Alzheimer's and dementia, right? Which is very much related to insulin resistance, very much related to inflammation, and now this new term, inflammaging. So I think the top two or three things that peptides help with is inflammation in the body, the weight, the insulin resistance, and prevention. Prevention as you age. Not only how you feel, but also how you look. And those, I mean, gosh, there's so many other things depending on the peptide, but those are like the biggest ones that almost every American can relate to.
So, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad I haven't heard the term inflammaging yet, but it goes hand in hand with diabetes that I do
Yes.
keep hearing about because two of the books that I'm reading, I'm reading three right now. One is called Good Energy, and so I'm doing a book club by Dr. Casey Means, right? She's our nominee for the new Surgeon General. Hello, every one of us, like we remember being kids and seeing Surgeon General warnings like in like the convenience stores, like on the things with the cigarettes, like Surgeon General warning said you cannot smoke if you're pregnant or drink alcohol, right? Like so Surgeon
Yep.
General warnings are big, big things. So I wanted to read her book, Good Energy. That's why we're doing the book club about it. But also there's an exercise physiologist and product developer has also written another book about movement. And then another book that's all about omegas and the omega 6 to 3 ratio and inflammation and what that underlying marker and disease baseline is, the foundation of all big chronic diseases here in the world, not just in the United States. And they're talking constantly about inflammation, right? And they're talking constantly about this diabetes. And I'm glad you said that because what we're focusing on in Momentum during the month of July is talking a lot about inflammation and how important it is to control and different ways to do it. And peptides are one. But secondly, I just was meeting with a new primary care doctor, and P.S. I'm interviewing them because I think it's really important. You need to be comfortable and you need to understand the background of your medical team, your medical doctor, right? And it's a two-way street. You're not just there to like take their orders. You need to let them know like you're at the forefront of your own health and you guys, this is a partnership. And
Yeah.
so I was leaving one practice,
Yes.
going to another, and he looked at my blood work and he goes, "You were prescribed Repatha, right?" Because my cholesterol numbers were kind of ridiculous in December. I also personally believe that we in the States think that our
Mhm.
cholesterol levels, our baselines are too low. I don't
Mhm.
think we allow ourselves enough, which is another cause for all of our brain disease and such.
Mhm.
Um, and I said, well, I think that this previous doctor's protocol was a little aggressive for where I was because he wasn't giving me the option for diet and exercise and the things that I know that I can do. I said, but I didn't take the meds. He goes, yeah. And so he looked at my numbers. He goes, in his opinion, that was a little bit aggressive. So that told me he and I were on a lot more of the same page. And then I was comfortable telling him, you know what, I dosed myself on peptides. He's like, well, you know what, honestly, he's like, I'm not going to recommend you do that without a doctor's recommendation. But at the same time, I'm glad you told me. And two, that's probably going to help with your cholesterol anyway. So
Yeah.
right there, confirmation that that this is something that is going to help with it on top of the balance oil that I'm taking, right? This omega or this Mediterranean diet in a
Mhm.
bottle. It's really twofold. And I think that you can you can strongly, because I know you have like you also have one foot on the holistic side and natural world, right? You have one foot in that book and you have one foot in kind of like the science and like the extra help. And I don't think that there's any shame in that. I don't think there's any
Okay.
shame in finding what works for you
Mhm.
and advocating for your own health.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you have to. I mean, you have to advocate for your health. You have to advocate for your kids' health. You have to teach them how to do it. And, when something feels off, it's usually off, and it's no one's fault. Like, I never blame any like providers or the healthcare system. It's just the way, I mean, if you look at the progression of our healthcare system the last 30 to 40 years, like there's been a lot of strain on it and there's been a lot of change. And with our food in the United States and so many things that have been created, we've created a lot of disease. Like we, as man and woman, have created a lot of disease just because of what we've allowed in our foods and allowed like our environment. I mean, people just there's so much. So I do 100%. I think it all goes hand in hand. And my just way that I handle my own health and that I love to encourage other people to handle your health is like a chair. You can't just like you can't sit on a chair that has like one peg, right? Like you can't have one avenue for your health. You've got to have three, four, some chairs even have five legs, right? Like you got to have a balanced chair. And that does look at like your gut. Your gut microbiome is like one of the biggest keys to unlock your health journey. You need to move your body. You need to pay attention to what you're putting in your mouth. You need to have some sort of source of preventing disease. And for a long time, we thought that was, supplements, and supplements absolutely play such a role. And now you've got availability and people starting to learn about peptides. And you don't need to just supplement. You don't need to just peptide. You need to do all of these things. And a lot of times, why people don't get the results is because they're just trying to eat better and move their body. And that is good. You should do that. But that does not, especially as we age and we get into perimenopause and menopause, and it just is not the key that unlocks everything. And a lot of that is because what we've done ourselves with the food and the environment we've created in this world.
Here's what I like to say to people who kind of are just they're ashamed to kind of be thinking about this because they can't do it on their own, or they feel like,
Mhm.
they're not enough because they can't be so disciplined with their food, and they're not, they're just so like, feeling terrible about themselves. What I say is, do you get your hair done? Right? Like, do you do something where you get your hair done? Do you get a little Botox? Do you do some filler? Or have you done any of those? Do you do like what are the things that you do for yourself, right? Like, and at some point, and I remember I was younger, I was probably early in my 30s, and I said, I'm never gonna get Botox. That's so, so bad for you, right? And like I had a friend that I used to work with, and she was older. She's like, be careful what you say. Like your perspective might change where you just realize you can't do it on your own. And then you have to look at your own personal hierarchy of
Mhm.
values. Like the way
Mhm.
you look and the way you feel are very much interconnected. And
Absolutely.
we can't shame ourselves into making it just a one size fits all. Like whatever approach works for you, do some research, reach out to people who do research. Be a skeptic, ask questions. But had I known that peptides could have such profound healing and regenerative properties, I would have been all over that when I broke my leg a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Because that was the catalyst. I was in the best shape of my life for about 2 months. I'd been eating very well, moving my body. Like I was there. And I was like, damn, I look good again. Break my leg Christmas Eve, and then was non-weight bearing for like 3 months. And then we moved to Florida, and like that was chaotic. So you're not gonna like just
Yep.
jump back into a crazy routine. Like you've got to let that stress settle. And since that, I never really got it back. And that's had I known that there was a peptide for that, I would have gone out and gotten it because I guarantee I would have healed so much faster.
Yep. Yep.
So there's
Yeah.
lots of
It's
things you
true.
can use these.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's one of these things that I think as people talk about it more, and that's why I love the conversations that we're having because it's educating people and it's educating people, and we do hear more and more about it, and I love that because most people, when they know about things, they can take control and they can start to take action. But if you don't know, it's hard to go down that route.
Yeah. Yeah. And I brought it up with a friend this morning, and let's just kind of make it simple and basic for people, right? Like I'm just chat GBTing what peptide, right? Like how are I think this is a question people have. How are all of these things called peptides, right? We think peptides, we hear about them in the supplement world, but then wait, the GLP-1s, they fall under that. The
Yeah.
NADs fall under that. This Samoralin falls under that. Like there's all sorts of things. It's not just weight loss. And so what is it? Peptide's a type of a bond, right? Like it's a bond between your amino acids. And so it's how they form. But it basically means peptide bonds are planar and rigid due to resonance. So limiting rotation and contributing to protein structure. The repeating sequence of peptide bonds forms the polypeptide backbone in proteins. The
Yep.
repeating sequence of these peptide bonds, right? You're enhancing these peptide bonds internally. So lots of different types of them. It's a type of bond. It forms the polypeptide backbone in protein. So when you bring it around to protein, everybody understands what protein does in the body and what's important. So I wanted to put that out there because I think there's still a lot of people like I was who was just really uninformed, even though my background
Yeah.
is in
Yeah.
nutrition, just hadn't really dialed it down to that much. It seemed way too confusing because I was still in that Hollywood shaming of GLP-1s are so bad.
Yeah. And if you think about, so an easy way to think about it is it's basically a chain of amino acids. And when you get these blocks, like you just said, you're getting these blocks together. And when they're blocks and they're in a certain way, they are a peptide. When there's 50 or more of these amino acids, they become a protein, right? So you've heard of like collagen protein, you've heard of these things, but you also have collagen peptides, right? And so, really, what is so cool is these are natural occurring things in our bodies. And so, the pharmaceutical land, the scientists, the researchers have figured out a way to mimic these things, right? They figured out to, I mean, they're hormones, right? These are naturally occurring hormones in our body, and they figured out a way to like mimic that hormone. And so, like specifically for the GLP-1, when you have a like your hormone GLP-1 naturally occurring in your body, like it's such a short, it doesn't last very long. But then when you can have a mimic one do the same thing and it lasts a lot longer, that's why you have like all these beautiful benefits. So it's kind of the same thing along with it is they're all natural occurring in your body. They're basically they all work a little bit different, but they're basically going in and for lack of better like terms, they're going in and they're grabbing onto what you have and helping you create more or producing the things that you don't have so your body can start working better. And they recognize them. Now, I will say, I'm definitely not an expert on what people are naturally calling peptides. People use the word slang peptide for a lot of different things. And that is, it's very confusing. It is very confusing to the public. It's very confusing to us. It's like, well, I've got like vitamin peptides or I've got prescription peptides. Like, are they the same? It's like natural versus prescription. And they, you have to look at clinical research. Like, you have to look at clinical research and you have to look at what any trend that happens in the United States, people will jump on a hot word and they'll create something. And it may be like activating certain things in your body that could produce more, but it is not the same. They are very, very, very different things, and you will have very, very, very different results. But they're both useful for certain things. So, but it is a very complicated and interesting conversation to have.
I want to bring up one thing, and I know we can get into the weeds on this, but I want to just touch on it because what Kelly and I know deeply in pharmaceuticals is, the generic and the drug are not always exactly the same. There are things that cause changes in bioavailability, how your body reacts with it. There is a difference. And when you are looking at, where you can get these peptides, right? You might find a high variability in price. And you're a little bit more expert in this particular space. So I'm going to let you explain a little bit more about maybe the potency and
Yeah.
the the compounding.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great topic. And full transparency, like I didn't know a lot about that. I really didn't. So I went and learned about it because it was important to me. I was like, I'm getting ready to inject this in my body. Like I knew about GLP-1s, like, and I knew about them because I'd worked in type 2 diabetes 24 years ago when they first came to market. Like I watched people lose weight on these products and then they're like, we need to start studying them. But the difference is you've got like your prescription branded products that are in pre-filled pens. A lot of them are when you're talking about the weight loss ones. But then you've got compounded versions, and compound is like the wild, wild west. I mean, it really, truly is. And it can be all over the place. You've got research grade. You have no idea where they're coming from. A lot of them are coming from China. They literally will say in very small print, sometimes you can't even see it, it's so small, but it says not for human consumption. Okay. So you've got that out there, and that's being advertised all over your social media. $99, $199. Like people are like, oh, I can get it so much. They have no idea that it's research grade. You've got some people, physicians and things using research grade for people. So you've got that. You've got compound pharmacies. You've got your compound pharmacies. You've got local ones. You've got state ones. You've got different levels of them. And so what I love and what I have learned, and I did not do this in the beginning because I didn't know better. I just didn't know better. But now I'll only purchase that I inject into my body and my family uses from 503A compounding pharmacies. And that is like the highest certifications that you can have. That is customizable that they can be. It is, all like exactly what you're getting. The purity is there. And where I order mine from, it is like the purity data is there. You know what you're getting. You don't always know that. And it's kind of like, this is a crazy example, but it's the easiest example. It's kind of like going to the grocery store and you're buying some ground beef. Like tomorrow's 4th of July, maybe you're making hamburgers, you're gonna get ground beef, and you go to the meat department and you got a bunch of ground beef, but you got 70% lean, you got 97% lean. It's all ground beef, but it's all a different quality, and there's different ones that are better from you. And um, it's different. And it's very, very similar with the quality. And that just basically what that means in layman's terms is you're going to have different results. Your results will be tied to quality.
And so that is so, so true. So the doctor I was talking to today, great guy. He does work in a medical practice and he also has a concierge practice on his own, right? So he's sees his own patients. And I asked him, I said, so he's like, because I can get these, compounded for you. I know you said it wasn't covered under the insurance, which is why you were doing what you're doing. And I said, well, right now I've got a really great pharmacy. I said, do you use the 503A pharmacy? He's like, oh, I use all of them. Like, I've got access to so many. And so he was really proud of that, right? And so what, but let me explain why he was proud of it is one, he's letting you know like it's going to be available. There's not going to be a product shortage because he's working with a lot of pharmacies. What they
Mhm.
don't understand, and this is where like because our medical community, the doctors that are board certified and licensed and they've gone to med school, they're not as they're not well versed in the product. That's why the pharmaceutical rep world exists, because these people have been trained very deeply, very specifically on the information of the product in the pharmacies and such. The doctors don't. They know about the body and the disease state.
Mhm.
And we really talk about that in Good Energy. It's an excellent book. Um, and so he's thinking that he's doing the best by his patients by having been
Yeah.
working with all of these pharmacies. What he's not
Yeah.
understanding is the difference in not just quality, but standards and the potency. Because I know, Kelly, you have, and again, I don't want you to think that sometimes to save costs that your doctor is intentionally doing something bad. What you don't know is what you don't know. And so
Absolutely.
they're there to try to do the best for you. They don't want you to not be able to get you the product that you want when they see the benefits for it. But that information is not as common knowledge like it is to those of us who've grown up in the pharmaceutical sales world.
Yeah.
But you had an experience where you were on one and then you switched to the one that you're on now, and your results were exponentially stronger, better, more,
Yeah.
which is why you started
Absolutely.
looking into the potency data.
Which is what led me to really diving in because I was on my first peptide and I didn't have good results. Like I think in 4 months I had lost like 9 pounds and I felt like garbage. And I was being dosed very, very, very high. And you know what? Honestly, looking back on it, I'm like, Kelly, shame on you. Like, you know better. You know how to look at knowledge. But you try, you go down that route and you just like think and you trust. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this. And I was having a very different experience. And then when I switched over to a different, same product, but different quality, I was like, holy cow. It was literally like within 24 hours, I felt like a different person. And my results, I started happening. They were great. And then that's what really clued me in. I had a few more friends. I had that same experience, but it was from a different town. But it was very similar. And I'm like, so I literally went to the owner of the company and I am like, I want to know. Like, I want to know purity and potency of what we're getting and what I'm taking. Like, I'm curious. Most compounding pharmacies will not give it to you. In fact, I have probably asked over 15 and I've only received it from the one that I use.
Makes
I
sense.
don't
I
know if they
totally
want
get
to
it.
hide it. I don't know if they don't have it. I don't know because it does require them to pay money to have testing done on a regular basis. So I don't know I mean, you don't have to, right? They're not, it's a different regulation. So, I don't know. It's an interesting topic. I don't know the answers, but my personal experience and several friends of mine, I was a little mind blown. I really was.
Yeah, well, I think that that's really important to know. And for those of you who have stayed with us or you come back and you're watching the replay, like the end, like we're wrapping it up, and it's been kind of longer than we probably wanted to put out there for you guys. But I think it's really, really important. And it's the same thing what we're doing it at Momentum, right? So Momentum is my personal company to connect people with health solutions, right? One foot in natural and supplementation and nutritional supplementation, which I think like really, really supports well this world of peptides where we're getting that extra oomph, we're getting the extra magic going into our bodies and we're being much more, I say, Momentum Health Solutions is next level health for your next level life. And that's really where I want to go, right? I just came out of this 5 year healing period. Now it's time to heal my body so I can live the life I've always wanted to live, like create the life you really want.
I love it. I love it. You're doing such a great job and inspiring so many. So thank you for having me.
So let us know questions. You can reach out to Kelly and me. And again, thanks so much for being here with us. I'm Danielle Lee. Hashtag it didn't crush me. Kelly, you're amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I can't wait. I can't wait to just continue to learn from one another and stay connected. So thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.